We need a poor people's campaign because we as a nation have on blinders. We don't want to see the poor, we don't want to see the hungry, we don't want to see the lame and the lost and the dispossessed in our community. And so the voices of the poor and the dispossessed and the disenfranchised needs to be heard, needs to be seen, and needs to be pushed up.
Unsettling force, and we are powerful anew. Unsettling force, and we're here, we're anew. Unsettling force.
The lower class, the poor, the working poor, and the straight up poor have been completely left out of the dialogue and talking about what policies are needed and how we need to change and what needs to happen in terms of the law, the policy, but also where the power is in this country.
So we took this opportunity to raise a Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival, as we hit the historical marker of the first Poor People's Campaign that was bringing together work that had moved in the civil rights movement with folks in the Chicano movement and the Indian American movement at that time, the AIM movement, and really seeing that there was a chance to start to build those kind of connections in that moment, that Dr. King and others had taken that step. And this is the 50th year since that campaign was launched in 1968.
This was after the passage of the Civil Rights Act. This was after the passage of these integration policies, and Dr. King and many others looked around and noticed that although we were able to integrate our public social life, that there weren't actually material changes to people's conditions.
There's much of a conversation of, how do we pick that back up? That what was done then is the unfinished business that we now have to take on. And to be able to not just use this moment as a commemoration, but actually as a reinvigoration of that time.
One of the biggest illusions going on in the country today is that everybody has a chance, that the American dream is still available, when for so many people it's not. And we have to do something to push back against that. Otherwise, nobody will have anything. We'll become a China or a Russia where we can't have journalism and we can't have activism and we can't have a Poor People's Campaign. We have to have it, because if things keep going the way they're going, there will be a time where we can't have one.
For us, as we've gone around the country doing tours and doing mass meetings, of really seeing people ready for a new conversation or a revolution of values, as Dr. King said, that we need that right now in this country, and people are ready and can feel connected and can feel, to stand up for our basic rights, our basic needs being met, and coming together on the core values of all different religious traditions and of folks that have, just basic spiritual groundedness in knowing what's right and wrong. We talk about it not being left or right, but really what's right or wrong.
This convening so far has just been a dream for me. Bringing artists together, bringing cultural workers together. Cultural workers being artists who understand that their place in this movement, in this world. There's this poet, Aja Monet, who I love, and she says the role of the cultural worker, and I might be paraphrasing, but she says the role of the cultural worker is to make movement irresistible. And I love that. I love that. That is our role, and I'm just so honored and grateful and humbled, and just like my brain synapses are just like firing off. Just being around these incredibly creative, passionate people who are actually rooted in community and understand our responsibility to our communities to not only decorate the movement, but to work through strategic interventions in this society that have been tearing us apart.
Recognize the role that music and arts and culture play in just society generally and in social movements, and really seeing that can't be just a decoration or an add-on to our organizing strategy, but really that the arts and culture work sits at the heart of a movement. It's what people will see, it's what people will remember, it's what's going to move people's hearts and minds in this movement. And so we wanted to be very intentional about how we made plans for the coming 40 days of action that is going to be the launch of this campaign. And so we brought folks from over 34 states, and Washington, D.C. represented here, folks that are musicians, folks that are visual artists, folks that are documentarians, to come together, to create together, to strategize together. And I have to say, it's been an amazing time of just really building something beautiful and building something that I think will not only ground ourselves being here this week, and I think that will then be able to move into all the communities that we're going back to and create the kind of relationships and connectedness that we want to see this campaign really be about, and create the kind of visual unity and the sound and the, just the beauty of this campaign, and at the heart, be able to express, the struggles that people are in, as well as the hope that people coming together, that we can actually change this society and in this moment.
How can we call ourselves a democracy, a representation of all the people, when in fact there's a whole bunch of people whose voices are not heard and their needs are not met? Physically, mentally, spiritually, medically. And so we need to bring attention to that vast underclass that exists and that is suffering. And for the people who call themselves Christian or have any belief system where you're supposed to be taking care of the poor, how can we allow this to go on this long? So I think that with the 50th anniversary of the sanitation worker strike in Memphis, Tennessee, and the assassination of Martin Luther King, and the anniversary of that Poor People's Campaign that was started and began after that, we have a responsibility to bring forth and gather the forces of people to say, enough is enough, ya basta. This is the time. We must make these changes in order to go forth as a group of people who believe in democracy, who believe in freedom and justice for all. This is that time.